everybody. Welcome back to Thrillers by the Book Club podcast. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Olivia, and we are so excited to be talking to you today about thrillers.
Woo! And also,
Happy New Year!
Yes, Happy New Year. But
Today-
much more importantly, possibly, it's this podcast is coming out on my birthday. So
it's your birthday. I didn't know that. Happy birthday!
Thank you. I just wanted to slip it in naturally, but I couldn't. So it's my birthday.
Yeah,
Yay.
no, that was perfect. Congratulations,
Woo!
Happy birthday! I hope it's an amazing day. If I had known that, we would have done something different.
I'm very excited about it. Yeah, it's depressing because for the past, I don't even know how long, my birthday feels like nothing, like it used to be cool and now I'm like, oh, it's
yeah, that's what happens
Tuesday.
when you get older.
What? I'm not older. Why would you say that? I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry.
I'm the same age. I don't age. I'm like Chuck Everlasting.
So, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is too much of a deep millennial and young person reference for me to get.
Sorry. What, you've never read Tuck Everlasting?
No. Have you ever read I don't know. Nothing's working. My brain's not working.
What in tarnation? I'm sorry. Tuck Everlasting. Okay. Never mind. It's fine. Tuck Everlasting is a classic 6th grade or 3rd grade. I don't know. We had to read it. I was like, live forever? Heck yeah. And then you read it and you're like, wait, no, that doesn't sound good, actually.
Listen, I went to a school that had 300 kids in the entire school from kindergarten to high school to senior year. So we're talking.
You didn't read? You didn't learn how to read?
No, they did not read. People did not read there.
Oh, I see. So despite the odds, you fought your way and now literate.
Now very literate, somewhat. This is why my speaking is so bad sometimes. But
so anyway, guys, we have a guest today. Olivia, tell us about our guest who's just sitting here like, why am I here? This is, I don't understand. Okay, first introduce, then we'll talk about Tuck Everlasting more.
Okay, perfect.
Right.
So I am so excited to introduce our guest today, James Latois. Did I say it right?
Yeah. Very good.
Okay, great. Ooh. James Latois uses his 29 years behind bars as an influence in his award-winning novels, short stories, and screenplays. But he wasn't the kind of behind bars you're thinking. He's a former associate warden in a maximum security prison, a hostage negotiator, and a director of California's state parole system. Oh my God. His novels have been shortlisted or awarded for The Lefty, the Anthony Silver Falcon Award, and the Public Safety Writers Award. Face of Greed and Serve Cold are his most recent novels. Major social themes weave through his work, including the world of human trafficking, black market organ transplants, homelessness, domestic terrorism, immigration policy, political corruption, and the pharmaceutical industry. I personally am a huge fan of his books, particularly the Emily Hunter series, which I think are really rich and exciting. And today, the second book in the series, River of Lies, comes out. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me here, guys. I really appreciate that. And I was learning a lot about Tuck Everlasting, so I'm down for the ride here.
Thank you. So you've also never read it. That's fine then. Okay. I'm not going to take it personally because it's okay. But you sound like that intro was one of the coolest intros I've ever heard in my entire life. I have to say.
Thank you.
All of those topics, do you know those topics because you've experienced them?
In some form or fashion, yeah. I've witnessed it, been there, seen it. I don't write directly about it, but those themes are kind of, weaved in and out of the stories.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
On top of, so the thing that sticks out to me immediately is hostage negotiation, which sounds like the coolest thing I can ever possibly think of. How did you get into that? I can't even describe how cool that sounds. I mean, high pressure, but very cool.
Pressure, but cool. Yeah. I got into that while I was working in the prison. Each prison has a hostage negotiation team, and it's part of kind of embedded with like the prison equivalent of a SWAT team. So you've got the tactical guys and then the negotiators. So yeah, we were FBI trained, negotiators. And Most of the time you didn't use it straight up in an event or an incident. There were a few, but some of those skills and techniques were just used on a day-to-day basis. Just convincing a guy to go back into his cell, so we don't have to shoot him. Just do what's right. So it was
yourself. I don't have to shoot you. That's just a standard day at work.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Such a different world. Such a different world.
Yeah,
so that must have been maximum security then.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Most of the time was at places like Folsom, Pelican Bay, Corcoran. All of the scenic tourist spots in California. That's kind of where I was. Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Nice. So, I have like a million questions for you, but let's start really quick with The River of Lies. Can you tell us about this book?
Sure. River of Lies, and I'll do a little thing here.
Ooh.
River of Lies is the second book in the Emily Hunter series, and we meet Emily in Face of Greed, and she's a very smart, a little bit sarcastic, snarky detective with the Sacramento Police Department, and part of her snarkiness is she's got to push twice as hard to get the same recognition that her male counterparts get. It's a very male-dominated profession, and so she pushes the limits a lot. But in River of Lies, she and her partner, Javier Medina, respond to a series of arson fires in homeless camps in the rivers in Sacramento. She soon discovers that even the homeless have something that somebody wants. So her investigation in this kind rolls out into who really can benefit from, taking victims from the homeless camp like that.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting idea because like typically you see a lot of detective series and it's serial which don't get me wrong, I love, but like serial killers or this murder or this kind of thing. But I think the stuff that you weave into your stories are so like with those huge social themes, and they're real, and it's like feels heavier and more realistic. And I get that must be because of your experience, but it's just a different kind of experience reading that versus some other detective novels. And like, love them. I'm going to pick on Karen Slaughter because she can take it. But like, if I read like Emily Hunter versus Will Trent, like it's a very different kind of experience. One is way heavier than the other. It's just really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm a big fan of Karen Slaughter and her work, and I love her Will Trent series. And yeah, I think even the two different series that I write, they have a different feel and a different tone. Yeah, River of Lies is very different from the Nathan Parker, Arizona-based detective series that I write there. But even my background, I don't write straight up prison noir, dark stuff. It's influenced by that. And some of those characters, after those many years, never kind of went away inside. So it was kind of a way to get some of those characters and situations out on the page. It's been fun to write. This series has been a blast to write.
Yeah, I bet it's fun processing.
Yeah.
So is that what got you into writing after working in the criminal justice system?
No, I never intended to write crime fiction. I went my whole career, 29 years, always read, a lot. And then one morning I had just retired and I was sitting with my coffee and a book out in the backyard, as old retired people do. And the book just sucked. It was awful. So I kind of tossed it aside and said, well, hell, I can do better than this. And it's like, well, can you? And so that kind of put me on the path, and I started learning how to do that and what story structure was and dialogue, and going to places like Book Passage for the Mystery Writers Conference and starting to get connected and into that community. And, here I am now, 10, 12 years later, I'm right in it.
I mean, and how many books do you have you written? Because it's quite a few, right?
Yeah, I think River of Lies is number 10.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. That is really amazing.
Thanks.
Fantastic. So, well, we kind of talked about this a little bit, like of how your stories draw on real life experience. But so I guess the question really is truth stranger than fiction? Like, are there things that you have experienced that there's no way would work in a book because publishers will be like, no.
Yeah, and that's come up. I mean, in one of the earlier books, I think it was Bury the Past. I had a scene that was taking place in a prison, in a minimum security facility, and the guy sneaks out and does his deadly stuff and sneaks back into the prison at night. So he's got the perfect alibi. He's in prison.
Yeah.
I couldn't convince the publisher that it was that easy to escape from a minimum security prison, because
Oh my
everybody
gosh.
thinks, oh my God, it's in prison. You can't get out. These are like camps, and you just open a window and you slip out. It's not that uncommon to happen, especially in a minimum security setting, but they could not get over that. So I had to rewrite the last half of the book. It was just utter, fantasy about tunnels and drain pipes and everything. But they were happy with that. But real life, no, they weren't good with that.
I know, because
Wait.
people have like work release. Like they
Oh,
go
yeah.
to work during the day and come home.
Yep.
Their home is the
Sorry.
prison.
One
That's
second.
right.
So you can easily sneak out of prison. Is that what you're saying?
In minimum security settings, you can. Well, for example, on the reverse of that, my desert series is kind of based on immigration issues down by the border. And I was at a prison in San Diego doing an audit of the prison, and that's when everything is just shipshape. The other warden is, showing off their place. And I get there and it's just a frantic mess. Well, they couldn't clear their count. And that's the one thing you do in prison is know how many inmates you have in your prison. And it took him hours to figure out that there was an anomaly in the minimum security facility. The count wouldn't clear there. So they had to do a bed by bed check of all 500 inmates in that minimum facility. And they realized they had one more inmate than they were supposed to have. I mean, how does that happen? Well, what turned
They have
out
one
was
more inmate than they're
one
supposed to
more.
have. Someone
Yeah.
sneak it in? Who's sneaking into prison?
That's exactly what it was, because there's a undocumented migrant trail that goes near the prison, and the guy got so tired and so hungry on the trip that he broke into prison for a place to sleep.
Wow.
So, that kind of shows you that the minimum facilities aren't these prisons like Alcatraz that you would picture. They're just camps, dormitories, and yeah, I mean the guys are usually minimum security, low risk, working out in crews in the community during the day, that kind of thing. But yeah, they can slip out.
Wow. That is amazing.
Wow. That makes you feel like, what's the point then?
Well, minimum security, like, gets usually more drug offenses and stuff like that, right? Like,
You've got the serial drunk drivers, the drug offenses, the supposed to be less serious, less nonviolent people that have very little time to do. So they're not going to risk their release date by running off and getting another 2 years when, they've only got 6 months left to go.
Why not just let them sleep at home? I don't understand.
I know, they get to go to work during the day. It's so
in this other location, right? Is that?
No, I mean, they're still committed to prison. They've got to do their time rather than doing it
in a dorm. You're saying,
yeah,
right?
It's usually minimum security facilities are typically dorm prisons. So you've got 500 inmates in a dorm. And most of them will be on work crews that are either taking care of the prison grounds or going out doing community service work or that kind of thing. And then they come back at night, like Olivia mentioned. And, that's where they live. They go out and do their work and they come back home to prison.
What? Okay. So why don't they just get community service? Isn't that the same thing?
No, it really isn't. I mean, they have probably burned through community service, probation, and everything else before the judge said, you know what, Chelsea, you're going to prison this time. So we're going to send you to prison. So they go off to a prison. They do some time inside during the reception center stuff. And then if they're low risk and nonviolent and they obey the rules, they can get out to these minimum security settings.
So does everybody come in? Everyone comes into I'm saying holding, but it's like whatever the registration area. They all go through that, and then they go through an evaluation, right? Is that the idea?
It's a reception center, and in California, each county has a designated reception centers. I think we have like a dozen reception centers in the state. So LA County will send all their people to one reception center. San Francisco to another. And then they get processed, classified, and you decide where that inmate can actually do their time safely, with all their needs that they might have, whether it's mental health issues, what kind of employment needs do they have? Do we need to put them into vocational training, that kind of stuff. And then you decide where that program need can be met.
Wow. So to be clear, that means, so this is prison, as in people have already spent their time in jail pre-trial if they didn't get bonded out or whatever. So then they've sentenced, they're going to, and this is everyone, serial killers to the guy who just shoplifted too many times. right? All in the
Yep.
same
Yep.
spot.
All in the same
That's
spot
terrifying.
initially.
This is
Yeah.
so interesting.
I
Yeah.
know. I
Don't go
think
to prison.
the initial part is like so crazy because like
Yeah.
if you didn't do that bad of a crime, like you're in with some very serious, scary people. I gotta imagine that's gotta be the scariest time.
It could be. I mean, the county jail systems are really good about communicating with the prison, like, hey, we've got these high risk people on this transport, and they might even separate them on the bus,
Okay.
so that they're not sitting with other people.
Mm.
But yet we know pretty much what's coming in the front door, and then we get all the court documents and everything. Like, oh yeah, Olivia's doing 25 to life for this, so let's keep her over here in the high risk area while we process everybody else.
Wow.
So fascinating.
So what about maximum security? Can people sneak out of that?
Not so much. No, that's
Okay.
not so much. I'm not going to say it's never going to happen. I mean, Dannemora in New York had their incident, but especially with the newer design prisons, I mean, they're pretty much designed to be very encapsulated with multiple layers of security that someone would have to break through or get through to get outside. So it really doesn't happen.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
so
I bet.
interesting. Oh my
That
goodness.
makes so much sense. So what are
Yeah.
the biggest lessons you've learned in each of your roles, like
Oh,
between being a warden, being a hostage negotiator, parole, and even writer, like kind of like this whole
yeah.
gamut? There's got to be so many things you've been able to take away.
Oh yeah, I don't think I can point to one role or one thing that I took away. It's this kind of salad bowl approach, really, of everything gets tossed in there. I mean, when I was working in the maximum security prison, you could kind of see guys. I mean, I worked in a unit. It was the security housing unit, and that's a prison within a prison. So if you killed somebody in the general population, you came to my unit. So we had,
God,
128
you worked in the
guys.
SHU? That's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Most of my max time was in SHU.
Wait, do you just say you had 120 people who killed someone in
Yeah,
prison?
yeah. Yeah, so it's the prison within the prison. So if you're that kind of a bad actor, we got to pull you out of the general population so those people can program safely, and we had to segregate those people. So, the Aryan Brotherhood, Mexican Mafia, Black Guerrilla Family, and all of these, prison terrorists, basically, we had to segregate into a single unit.
And then did you have to segregate them by their gang affiliation, or could they not be with it? Because like that's a whole complicated thing too, right?
It is, yeah. They don't play well with others.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of separate them. Unlike they're in the security housing unit, and they have yard exercise. Well, certain groups can't exercise together. So Northern Mexicans could go out in the yard with the Aryan Brotherhood, or with the Black Guerrilla Family. The Southern Mexicans and the Aryan Brotherhood were okay, but you couldn't put the Aryan Brotherhood and the Black Guerrilla Family together because that was going to be a war. So
Yeah.
that dynamic changed all the time. So you had to figure out who was at odds with who from day to day.
And I bet I'm sure you got to see so much amazing innovation too. So I love, if I could do my life over again, I would have been an anthropologist studying prison systems. I find them super, super fascinating. Like, I just love it.
Yeah.
But they have an entire language, a social culture, a social hierarchy, all of that stuff. Like,
Yep.
very much. What is that like learning that? And is it such a weird juxtaposition between real life and what's going on in the prison?
It really is, because one of the things that struck me when I started working, so when I started working in the prisons, I went to Folsom, and that was built in 1880. So, and that original structure is still being used. So you've got that old Gothic kind of feel about the place. And then you start to realize that, the guys that you're interacting with, the inmates that you're talking with, they're stuck in time. Whatever was going on in their life at the time that they got arrested and thrown in jail, that's where they stopped. So they'd never seen a cell phone. They didn't know what cable TV was. They just how to communicate those kinds of things and technological advancements. They had no clue, nothing. They knew nothing about. And what was scary for them is some of them were getting ready to be released after serving 20, 30, 40 years. They didn't know what the world was going to be like. And it's a very different place. So it was very scary for them.
Yeah.
Did you find
and isn't that like
people...
why you see what's it called? It's like where they're getting they become systemized, but that's not the right word.
That's what I was going to say. Did you find people were more comfortable coming back, trying to come back to prison almost because it was like the culture they knew?
They were familiar with it. They could survive there. Actually, my graduate work was on that subject. It was called on the prisonization curve.
Yeah.
So you develop these antisocial trends as you do your time, and just before release, you start getting more and more acquainted with the community aspects. But I mean, I saw guys who would purposely violate parole so they could get back in prison.
Yeah.
And some of them was to get back in prison to get medical care that they couldn't get on the streets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's bad.
And I think this is really interesting because this sort of ties into what the topic with River of Lies, with the homeless population and the homeless encampments. And so, as that something that is pretty common to see prisoners released back into society and without the skills, without any of that stuff that maybe they could have been getting in the program, maybe they didn't do their programs, whatever, and they're ending up on the streets.
It is, and every state is different, but in California we have a determinate sentence. So if you do your 2 years, minus credits, you're out. Whether you've prepared for that release or not, you're out. River of Lies, there was some influences that came to me with when I was working in parole. We went down to Los Angeles and we kind of basically toured Skid Row. It's the largest homeless encampment in the nation. And there's just thousands and thousands of people living on the streets and corners in this stretch of roadway in downtown LA. We had parolees that lived there, and it kind of had a lot of challenges coming with it on, how do you supervise this population when their last known address is in a box at the corner of, LA Avenue and 3rd or whatever it was. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, you've got all the communicable diseases that, breed in those environments and all that kind of thing. And part of what I was trying to get a sense of was how do I communicate that to the legislature so that we can get resources for that population to help either figure out how to house and supervise that population while they're under parole supervision, or do something a little bit different.
I mean, you're so amazing. I can't. You're talking, you're doing legislature and you're doing these amazing things. Yeah. And I just have to tell you, when you work at an office job where you're not dealing with those people, and the most stressful thing is are we going to get this marketing thing out? It's such a thing to come back and be oh wait, actually my job is nothing compared to what the actual risk and experience that people are having and that you chose to go into, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, even now, I get hung up on the marketing stuff and the things that we have to do for the books, and it's I'm feeling pressure that I've got to get this out. The deadline's coming up. My revisions are due, and then I realized nobody's going to die today. Yeah, so that's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps bring it down to all right.
It does. Yeah, it does. Just a little bit.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
That's so interesting.
So other prison questions I have is, what's one thing you wish the general public knew about prisons, prisoners, or prison life?
Good one.
Boy, there's so many things because people just really don't want to know. They need this person's out of the community, out of their lives. They're sent away. I don't have to think about them anymore. The thing that most people don't realize is over 90% are coming back, and they're coming back to the community, and they're coming back to that same place with whatever resources they had then. So we've got to kind of think about the prison system a little differently, and we need to turn out people that are at least not as bad as when we got them and give them back to the community. And I don't think we've reached that bar yet. It's still quite a ways to go.
Isn't it it's the whole ongoing debate around rehabilitation versus punishment, right?
Right.
In the prison systems. And, the idea at some point was that it's supposed to be around rehabilitation for those who can be rehabilitated. And I know there are people who definitely cannot, but,
sure.
And I just, it drives me crazy when I see that there's not enough funding for folks for this kind of thing, because we're just putting them, it's just cycle. It's just, we're creating the same cycle.
Yep.
And you see these kids who come in, and their dad and their grandpa and their aunt and their uncle, all of these people were all in it, and they're all doing the same cycle over and over again. And it drives me crazy. I don't understand why we are not taking more of a how are we making people's lives better versus,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
you're being punished for this thing that now is like weed is now legal in half the states. Like it's just, I'm mind blown about all of these things. It's just,
Yeah, we know that rehabilitation programs work for the right program works for the right inmate. You can't just kind of throw it all out, and you've got to really target it. And we saw some success with, especially substance abuse. We had a program that, in the last year of their confinement in prison, we housed drug addicts together in a unit and provided them treatment. It was a therapeutic community model. We actually brought in ex-addicts and ex-offenders to do the treatment. I mean, they're not going to listen to us, but they'll listen to people that
because
have
you
been
don't
where
know.
they're at. No, they'll listen to people that have done what they've done, been where they've been, and see the change in them, and they'll think, well, maybe it is possible for me.
Yeah.
We saw great success in recidivism reduction with that program.
That's amazing.
So
That's
it's
amazing.
possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is so cool. So you said you worked at Folsom. You didn't work at San Quentin. Yeah.
I was at San Quentin a lot. Yeah, I was over
You
there
were?
quite a bit.
I was wondering, I'm guessing not, but were you working at San Quentin when they started producing Ear Hustle?
That was a little bit after my time, but yeah, I would spend a lot of time over there. I was visiting the warden over there, talking about setting up a program or something. We toured the prison, and another note: my dad actually worked there in the '60s as a death row sergeant.
Ooh.
So
Oh my gosh.
he did that. So we were touring death row, and it was kind of neat, see where Dad was and all that kind of stuff. And then the warden opens the gas chamber and says, "Hey, take a look inside," And I go in, and yeah, it's just like it looks on the photos, and he shuts the door.
Nope.
And he spins the lock and locks me in the gas chamber.
Fast.
No.
And then he flips the switch, which pumps the air up out of the chamber, and your ears pop a little bit. And then he says, "Listen to this." There's a little intercom thing. He says, "Listen to this," and he pulls a switch, a little mechanical switch, and it basically is a bucket that drops into the acid underneath the chair. So if there were cyanide pellets in the chair, it would clank down into the acid. And he says, "That's the last thing anybody ever hears." And
What the?
Oh my god.
so yeah. So if I ever believed in ghosts, that would have been the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was so. Yeah, I was executed at San Quentin. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, he was a bit of a jokester. Yeah.
I bet. I think you probably have to have some level of dark humor to get through that job. I can't even.
Yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
imagine all the things you see and experience.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Just a side note for those who don't know what Ear Hustle is, it is a podcast that is recorded in San Quentin. And there was a reporter that came in and was producing it, and they had another prisoner that was there. He has since been released. I haven't listened to it in a couple of years, but anyway, it's super. If you want to know about prison culture, it's the best. It's so good.
Interesting. It's good. It is good.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for talking with us, Jim. Oh my God. I feel like I could literally do this all day.
No, I have.
It's
so
fun.
interesting.
Do you have more questions? You can ask, Chelsea.
No, it's okay. I have 1,000 questions, but it's fine.
All right. Well, then, shall we hop over to pub day?
Yes. Birthday pub day.
Birthday pub day for it's a special day for both of you guys. Congratulations. What a great day.
I love it.
Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Heck yeah. I'm allowed to do pub day now, guys. So this is my first one. So
She's allowed now.
I'm allowed to. And so I will. So I'll tell you about the books. One of the books coming out today is The Note by Al Fairbrooke. From Knopf. I read it. I liked it. It was meant to be a harmless prank. Growing up, May Hanover was a good girl always, well-behaved, top of her class, a compulsive rule follower. Raised by a first-generation Chinese single mother with high expectations, May didn't have room to slip up, let alone fail. Her friends didn't call her Little Sheriff for nothing. But even good girls have secrets and regrets. When it comes to her friendship with Lauren and Kelsey, she's had her fair share of both. Their bond, forged when May was just 12 years old, has withstood a tragic accident, individual scandals, heartbreak, and loss. Now, the three friends have reunited for the first time in years for a few days of sun and fun in the Hamptons. But a chance encounter with a pair of strangers leads to a drunken prank that goes horribly awry. When she finds herself at the center of an urgent police investigation, May begins to wonder whether Lauren and Kelsey are keeping secrets from her, testing the limits of her loyalty and her lifelong friends. What had they gone and done? Yep, I read it.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to talk about it on the podcast yet, so I'm not going to tell you what I thought. But I read
Okay,
it.
that sounds great.
Yeah.
Is this a standalone or is this part
No.
of her? Okay, because she does have. I think Alifair she does some that can work as standalones, but they have a character that is recurring.
Oh,
You know
it's
what I'm
standalone.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. I read it too. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. All right. The next one up that's being published today is called They All Fall the Same by Wes Brown from Crooked Lane. An organized crime boss in Kentucky believes money and power are everything until his enterprise collides with a family tragedy in this gripping noir thriller, perfect for fans of S.A. Cosby and Eli Craner. Cannabis kingpin Burl Spoon has reigned over the Jackson County area for 3 decades, building a powerful backwoods empire. But behind a well-run organization, his personal life is crumbling. His daughter can't stay clean. His son has hated him since coming out. And after enduring years of infidelity, his wife is straying too. The only person not on his payroll who still adores him is his 6-year-old granddaughter, Chelsea. When his daughter overdoses on heroin laced with fentanyl and one of his employees is murdered, Burl's retaliation against Clovis Begley, the patriarch of the heroin-dealing family involved in both deaths, is inevitable. As Burl's plan spirals into a firestorm of vengeance that threatens the safety of his granddaughter, his drive for revenge conflicts with his longing for redemption. On the brink of losing everything, Burl must find a path between retribution and protecting what's left of his family. That sounds so heavy and so good. Yeah.
Okay, the next one is actually the next book I'm reading. So I'm pretty excited to talk about it because it sounds
It sounds interesting. I'm excited.
Oh, guys, it's Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman and by Quirk Books. It just listen to this. Noah Fairchild has been losing his formerly polite Southern parents to a far-right cable news for years. So when his mother leaves him a voicemail warning him that the great reawakening is here, he assumes it's related to one of the many conspiracy theories she believes in. When his own phone calls go unanswered, Noah makes the long drive from his home in Brooklyn to Richmond, Virginia. There, he discovers his childhood home in shambles, a fridge full of spoiled food, and his parents locked in a terrifying trance-like state in front of the TV. Panicked, Noah attempts to snap them out of it and get them medical help. Then, Noah's mother brutally attacks him. But Noah isn't the only person to be attacked by a loved one. Families across the country are tearing each other apart, literally, as people succumb to a form of possession that gets worse the more time they spend glued to cable news or falling down the internet rabbit holes. In Noah's Richmond-based family, only he and his young nephew Marcus are unaffected. Together, they must race back to the safe haven of Brooklyn. But can they make it before they fall prey to the violent hordes? This ambitious, searing novel from one of horror's modern masters holds a mirror to our divided nation and will shake readers to the core. Everything about that is
everything about that.
It's a parody of reality. That's really interesting. I'm so excited to read it because I know I'm going to have thoughts because it's like, hello.
Yeah.
It's like, we all think it. It's, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's what we all think. Like, but is it happening in a way? Yes.
I mean, yes, this is clearly, I think everybody who sees this is going to be like, oh my God, yes, I have. Like, I want to read this, but I also am a little bit scared about what's going to happen.
It's already happening. Anyway, it's called Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, which, like, wake up and open your eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and so this is horror, right? Like, that's what he usually writes.
It's horror, and like I always say, it's horrifying because it's reality.
That's what I was going to say. This is like the most realistic horror I've seen in a bit. All right. Okay, well, the last one that is pubbing today is River of Lies by Jim Latois from Ocean View Publishing. Yeah,
I've heard about this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard good things. The homeless camps spread throughout the city of Sacramento are a topic of heated debate among residents. They're considered undesirable, a nuisance, an eyesore. But when the camps fall victim to a string of devastating arson attacks, Detective Emily Hunter and her partner Javier Medina dive into the investigation and become acquainted with the real people whose lives have been destroyed. The attacks only begin to draw attention when two of the victims are identified as the city's former anti-homeless mayor and a camp social worker. But rather than strengthening the push for justice, the movement to completely abolish the camps intensifies. The investigation becomes politically charged when Emily discovers who stands to gain from burning the homeless out of their shelters. She struggles to balance the high-stakes investigation with caring for her Alzheimer's-stricken mother, whose condition is rapidly deteriorating. The investigation uncovers an unlikely suspect and a reluctant witness standing between Emily and the shocking truth. Can Emily overcome resistance and her personal obstacles to halt the attacks? Listen, Emily's got a lot on her plate.
It does.
She's got a lot on her plate.
She does.
I believe in her.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chelsea.
I think we'll see, but probably. Yeah.
Well,
Yay!
Congratulations, authors. Congratulations, Jim. And readers, I hope you found something new to pick up this week.
Woohoo! Okay, today the book that I am talking about is a book I read a long time ago because it came out in September of 2023. Wow, so long ago. Who can even remember 2023? No one.
I don't know. It's 2025 now. That was 2 years ago. That was too long.
so long ago. It's called This Is How We End Things by R.J. Jacobs. And you may know him. That's right. You're like, I've heard that before. You may know him from Always the First to Die or Somewhere in the Dark or this book. And if not, I'll tell you about it. So, under the instruction of Professor Joe Lyons, 5 graduate students are studying the science behind the acts of lying. But, which I'm like, his last name is Lyons, and they're studying lying? Come on. Lion? Really? Anyway, it's like Cruntus the Dent. Never mind. Okay. But discovering the secrets of deception isn't making any of the students more honest. Instead, it's making it easier for them to guard their own secrets, and they all have something to hide. When a test goes awry and one of them is found dead, the students find themselves trapped by a snowstorm on an abandoned campus with a local detective on the case. As Harvard secrets begin to break the surface, and the graduates must find out who's lying, who isn't, and who is capable of committing murder. Ooh. So, the setting is the academic research department of a university in North Carolina. Which is a great setting, in my opinion. Yeah. The characters are Professor Joe Lyons. Come on, man. Come on. So he's the professor in charge of the graduate students. And then the graduate students, there's Scarlett. She's this single mother. She just wants everyone to get along. Then there's Joe's assistant, Robert. There's Britt. She's kind of like this mysterious graduate student. She's super impulsive. There's Chris, who's the stereotypical, like, popular, clean-cut type graduate student. There's Elizabeth, another stereotypical. She's sleeping with Joe, the professor. And Veronica, who is a lawyer who's been hired to help with the research. And I thought this was a very fun premise. I love the setting of the university psychology department doing all this research. I loved hearing about the psychology of lying and seeing the story come together. It was a fun locked room mystery because the storm kind of cut them off. There was all these potential victims and potential suspects. I thought it was good writing. It was enjoyable to read. The plot was pretty obvious. And I thought the culprit, like, I could tell who it was personally, but the writing still made it interesting and it was very fast paced. So that was really interesting. And the story talked about each character individually. So I still really liked it. I liked learning about the characters. I liked the main detective, and the chapters were really long, I will say, but they each ended in a, not necessarily a cliffhanger, but something that made you want to read the next chapter.
Yeah.
So I kept reading. I gave it 4 stars. And great locked room mystery. The trigger warnings were infidelity, murder, psychopathy, and school shootings. So keep that in mind. And a similar book was The Family Bones by Elmar.
Oh, okay.
Now you know.
Nice.
This is how we end things.
I added that to my Goodreads. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it was. It was really good. It was interesting. I only had 1 comp because I haven't really read many books like it before. And
Yeah.
it was a new take on a locked room mystery. It wasn't an island.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Was it a snowstorm
in the snow. It was a school.
Okay, it wasn't a snowstorm.
It was a school in a snowstorm. Totally.
Well, you know what? We haven't seen Dark Academia, Locked Room Mystery. There you go.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was obvious, but not really. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you should read it. So 4 stars. Lion. This is how we end things. Okay.
All right.
That was it.
Fantastic. All right, Jim, you want to tell us about your book today?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to talk about J.T. Ellison's book, A Very Bad Thing.
That's a real thick one.
Yeah, she calls it her big pink book. And you know, I love JT. She is just she's one of the kindest, nicest people out there in the community. But I mean, on top of that, she's just a terrific author. I mean, this one I haven't asked her about it yet, but it centers around a very well-known author called Columbia Jones, and Columbia's out on book tour. She's super, super popular. People flock to come and see her, and she's murdered in the middle of her book tour. So the story is all around that and what happened, and it's told in an alternating point of view between the daughter who thinks she's going to assume this media empire, and the publicist that's been following Columbia on her book tour, and it just goes sideways and everybody's after each other. But I mean, JT can create a character like nobody else. She's just awesome in that way. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away because even though it's a big pink book, it reads very, very quickly. Yeah, the alternating point of view, things just move really, really well. And if I had to kind of comp it with another recent work, Robin Harding's The Haters just came out. Kind of deals with that book world kind of thing. Very similar tone and feeling in these 2 books. But yeah, JT is one of my go-to authors. When she has a book come out, I grab it because it's always a good.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Definitely agree here. Same thing. If she has a book out, it's on my pre-order list.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy thing about that book too is like, I don't know, it's like 500 something pages, but it read quickly.
It did read really fast.
Surprised because I'm very notoriously picky. Like if it's over 300 something, I'm like, ugh. But that book read fast. I was and I
really did.
The switches of the point of views and things, like it really kept it up.
It did.
Which I enjoyed because sometimes it can be tough. But that one, she did a really good job.
Yeah, I agree.
It was fun. A lot of fun.
Great.
That's fantastic.
Olivia.
All right. Well, I am going to tell you about a book that I read this week that I wish I had read earlier in the year because it would have been my number 1 book of the year. And you guys are going to get real sick of me talking about this book next year. Sorry, but it's happening. Okay, it is called My Darlings by Marie.
You told me to read it.
I texted Chelsea immediately and I was like, you have to get it right now. Stop. You have to get this book.
Oh, good. Now I don't have to read it. You're going to tell us all about it.
No, you have to read it. Okay, it came out in October of 2024. This is about stay-at-home mom Eloise. She's a PTA president, a respected philanthropist on the boards of many distinguished charities, and is a doting wife and mother, and a serial killer.
Classic.
So this book is billed as Desperate Housewives meets Dexter. And honestly, that is a perfect description. I also got really strong Big Little Lies vibes with this and everything related to the school. There's a whole school thing that goes on. And Eloise is sort of also like a female Joe Goldberg. A little bit more, I think, than even Dexter, in my opinion. Yeah. So Eloise spends time with her friends. Her friends are Suzanne. Suzanne is married to a man named Tobin, and he likes to buy her really big gifts after he's done some bad things. So he is not a good person. Their other friend Beatrix, who has secrets. Poppy, who's just kind of like, she's there on the outside. She's sort of just like the outside friend. And they're all PTA moms. They're with drama and power struggles. There's catty backstabbing. There's rumors, lies, secrets, and all the juicy lady drama of Desperate Housewives. She's also a mother to a teenage girl named Bryony, who Bryony actually hides a lot of her mom's abuses. She actually experiences quite a bit of secret things that Bryony's dad, Eloise's husband, doesn't know about. And then there's also another character that we're with that is watching Eloise. He knows all about Eloise's extracurricular activities and is set on their own revenge. Probably should. There's also someone.
Gosh, who could it be?
There's also someone watching Eloise who knows about her extracurricular activities and is set on their own revenge.
Oh my gosh, who could...
Shut up.
Well, now I'm not reading it. Just
what?
kidding. I will.
You're like, no, I'm not going to read it.
Just kidding.
Okay. So my thoughts are people are sleeping on this book, and that is so wrong. Like when I went to Goodreads, I was shocked at how few reviews there were because it's so good. Anyway, this book is gritty, it's graphic, it's violent. This is no holds barred and so fun. It's the kind of book that I really enjoy reading in the mind of someone who's totally unhinged as they try to navigate the world around them and or while they're meeting their own needs and hiding their secrets. It's a constant cat and mouse game with the rest of the world. Marie Still was able to weave a very female-centric story with the housewives drama with the darkness of a serial killer who likes to kill women for fun, which is a thing that I really enjoyed about this as well, is that it's a really fresh take on the female serial killer trope. We often see female serial killers, they're killing in the name of justice, they're killing men who've done bad things, that kind of thing. But this is somebody who was killing women because she wanted to, for funsies. So which also feels a little bit different than what we normally see. And to me, this also feels like the ultimate feminist story because men are not the only ones who kill for fun. Women are just as capable and just as dangerous. And I thought it had representation there that, I mean, it's a weird representation, but I like it. I'm here for it. It's also been optioned by Amazon for a series to be produced by Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. And the showrunners from the show You on Netflix are attached to it. So I feel like it's gonna be really good.
So good.
Cool. Trigger warning is all of them. This book is very violent and graphic. There's stalking, domestic violence, rape, murder, torture, gaslighting, infidelity, and the list goes on. I rated it 5 stars. Similar books are You by Carolyn Kepnes, The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, They Never Learn by Lane Fargo, Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty, and American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. So,
wow.
My darlings, you guys gotta read it if you like that kind of thing, which I do.
Yes.
Like, it makes me so happy.
Look at how happy she is.
I
Unless
am.
you're listening to the podcast, then quickly go on YouTube and watch the video and look at how happy she is.
How happy I am about all the murders.
So happy. So happy.
Anyway.
Great. Love it.
Yay.
Love it.
Awesome. So, Jim, if people want to chat with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on most of the social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I haven't made the migration to Blue Sky yet, but that's probably going to come this year. And then, I'll be out most of January out on the road with River of Lies, starting on the 4th, even before the pub date, in Book Carnival in Orange County with Matt Coyle and Baron Bircher. Facing a Book on the 11th, book passage with Samantha Downing, who knows a thing or two about serial killing women.
Yeah, she knows a couple things.
Yeah, we'll be there on the 19th, and then I'm taking off to New York on the 23rd. So yeah, it's going to be a busy month.
That is fantastic. And you also have a podcast and Authors on the Air?
Authors on the Air. Yeah, I'm the host for Authors on the Air. We did 50 interviews last year.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a busy time. But yeah, I've got in January lined up Alistair Burke. We're going to talk about The Note. Then we've got Greg Hurwitz for his new Orphan X book. We've got Robert Craze with the new Joe Pike book that just came out. Joe Pike Elvis Cole book that came out. Ward Larson with his. T. Jefferson Parker's coming on with The Rescue. We're going to talk about the paperback release of that. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, you're a busy guy.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at Thrillers by the Book Club Pod, or me at Thriller Book Babe,
or me at Olivia Day Wallace. And I hope you guys found something amazing to read this week. And if you need to kill some time,
read a thriller. Bye.
Bye. Oh, I got to stop it. That's right.
You don't have to.